Oh, man. You know, I got one word for this. Ho's mad. It is so fucking funny for me to see how mad everybody has got about this.
Hey, what's up, guys? Rep here. So right now on social media, there is a very heated debate on the topic of quote-unquote ugly female leads in video games. This whole debate was sparked by recent reaction to the main protagonist of Naughty Dog's latest trailer, and that is for the game
Which people are blaming me for. They're like, I did this. I'm the person who caused everybody to dislike the character.
Galactic. Now, the initial reaction to this game has been abysmal, at least looking at the like-dislike ratio on all the related trailers. It is really, really bad. And a lot of people...
I love how people think it's just a very loud minority, as if the Walmart Americans of the country aren't racist. Like, they're more sexist and more racist than any gamers are. So if you have to go to the silent majority of the average person, you're going to be in a way worse spot.
Just aren't impressed, not only with the character designs, but also just with the trailer itself. However, what we're going to focus on today is the coping and seething that a lot of woke people are having on social media in regards to this criticism of Intergalactic. They are looking at things like this, the like-dislike ratio on the trailers, and saying, no, actually, this is a good sign for the game. They unironically...
This is a good thing, guys. No, everybody doesn't like it. That's what we didn't want them to like it. Oh, okay.
Think these numbers are good and only represent the vocal minority who somehow achieved the majority in the dislikes. But anyways, this post is a good place to start. This is from the Naughty Dog subreddit saying, don't look at the like-dislike ratio. Look at the like-views ratio. The fans are excited. People disliking, we're never going to buy the game anyways. This game will be amazing. So this description right here is...
How do you know it will be amazing? Like, I can understand wanting to withhold judgment, but, like, I don't think you should know it. You didn't even see the game. Like, I mean, yeah, like, shouldn't we see the game before we say the game is going to be good? Like, I don't know what to say.
Just the modern audience. I don't know why they're projecting about that, but they're looking at this very weird metric of like-views ratio. I've never heard of that before. They're basically saying if a game and its trailer has a lot of views and a lot of likes isolated from the dislikes, that's a really good sign. Yeah. Except for the massive amount of people who don't like it and are criticizing it. But anyways, their logic is obviously quite foolish and desperate. And honestly,
I will give a different opinion. I think that it actually is valid that there are a lot of people that still do like the game, and it's just that the game got a lot of attention. And overall, there will still be a lot of people that might want to play it. But what my expectation is that it won't be very good, right? Because all 400 people, maybe, right? I think we're going to have to wait and see what happens. I can't wait for it to fail. I hope it doesn't. I hope the game's good, right? I mean, so I have something to play. But it seems like it probably won't be based off of just prior experiences.
Their own logic. Trailers for the live-action Snow White film, for example, would be considered a good sign because it has a lot of views and it has a lot of likes. But, you know, it also has that nasty 97% dislike ratio. But you don't have to pay attention to that because we're coping and seething on Reddit.com. There's also a question that is getting you a lot of hate on Twitter right now.
Here we go.
And that's asking questions about the main protagonist, mainly... who is the target audience of this main protagonist? I see death threats in threads like this. People are so angry about this very simple...
They really need to cut... I say this all the time. They need to cut down on that. Like, Twitter just needs to perma people that are doing death threats. Like, if you're talking about killing somebody or being violent to somebody in real life, you should just be insta-perma'd. Like, if you're memeing about it or anything else, like, insta-perma. Like we need to cut down. Like, I mean, there's shootings or shit like this happening. Like, it is radicalizing people, and there's no reason that a person needs to communicate that way. It's not debatable. Yeah, it's like, what are we talking about?
Fair question. You can like this design.
It's a fucking video game.
But it is a fair question to say, what was Naughty Dog thinking when they made this main protagonist for the type of game they're trying to sell? Because there is definitely a target audience of the type of game that they're selling here.
Well, here's the truth. Like, again, this is a space bounty hunter game. This is a game for guys. Guys are going to play a game like this. If you have a male audience, there are two ways that you can write a character. And if you either have a male character that they can relate to, or a female character that they can jerk off to. That's it. Any other option is bad. Yep. That's it.
Intergalactic. And the average person who's interested in that sort of genre probably doesn't want a main protagonist who looks like this. I think that is a fair thing to raise.
I mean, you look at any of the popular female protagonists in old games, all of them were hot and had huge boobs. Like Tifa, Lara Croft, Ivy from Soul Calibur, like, I don't know, Bayonetta, like, she's really hot. Like, not necessarily massive boobs. Samus, right? 6'2", blonde Amazon. Like, what are we talking about? Like 2B, yeah. Like, every single one of these characters is extremely attractive. And so, like, I don't know what we're even talking about here. It's just a fact of reality.
Naughty Dog, but raising these questions gets you a very hostile reaction on social media. And to answer the question, what's exactly the target audience? Well, of course, it's the modern audience that just doesn't show up. I mean, these sort of designs are featured in pretty much every game listed here. We all know that these games would eventually go on to fail. However, there's been a very bizarre level of cope and seethe, and this is one of the best examples of this on Twitter. So this post, this art, got nearly 100 million likes and is featuring the main protagonist from The Witcher.
I just hope these people actually buy the game. Like, if they're advocating for this so much, I hope that they actually buy the game. Because what I think happens a lot is that you have a lot of Twitter virtue signalers that try to make companies make games to appeal to them, but then those people don't actually go out and buy the games and support the media that they try to enforce a standard for. That's really the issue. Because, like, if there was a huge audience of people who liked buying games that were like this, then it wouldn't be a problem. It wouldn't be a conversation. But the issue is that the audience for this doesn't seem to exist, but the people are so certain that it does. They're activists, not gamers? Yeah, you can't make games for activists. You can't make games for people that don't buy games.
4, as well as Intergalactic, and this 2014 looking feminist propaganda.
I think it's ridiculous that people are comparing Ciri and the protagonist from Intergalactic. It's two completely different universes. But, like, yeah.
Now, before we read some of the captions here, this is a very creative self-own, because what they're trying to make fun of is the chuds, the incels, who are calling characters like the main protagonist of Intergalactic masculine. They're addressing that by then drawing her more feminine for the purposes of their art. An incredible self-own. But they say here, 100% incel tier, so everyone who's mad about this is an incel.
For sure.
And also basically saying that all the people upset about this are men, and that you're pretty much not welcome here. And we've seen this happen before, right? Like with like She-Hulk, for example, where they said, incels, you're not welcome here. Well, that didn't work out. Well, they weren't.
Yeah, and then they didn't watch, right? They unintentionally made them more attractive looking at the art. Yeah, for sure. I want to play a game with a female protagonist that I know is way out of my league. Well, so this is my viewpoint on it. Who does it serve to make a female protagonist unattractive? Because the people who don't care about the way the character looks are going to play it even if she is attractive or not. And so the only people that it would serve are the people that do care about a character's appearance and want the character to be ugly. I don't think that's the majority of people. I think it's a tiny, tiny minority of people. And so if you do that, ugly hoes, I don't even think that they do it. I think if you look at a bunch of fat bitches and you see their characters in video games, like you look at let me think of a character, let's look at Dragon's Dogma 2, for example. Like, you can make a fat character in that game. I bet if you took 10 fat chicks or 100 fat chicks and you looked at the type of female character that they probably made in Dragon's Dogma 2, I would bet the majority of them would be skinny. I do. I don't think that's what people want to be. Like, and it would be a more attractive version of themselves.
For them, and it's not going to work out for messages like this that are now basically free advertising for Naughty Dog, but it's not going the way that they would intend at Naughty Dog, because this sort of message says half of the population, you're not welcome here, don't buy this game or these games.
This is just
and
fan
it's pretty
art,
ridiculous.
to be fair.
But yeah, you can see this got a lot of attention and also ended up with the replies being locked. And if you want to have some fun, go to the hidden replies. There are literally hundreds of hidden replies. The original poster went through probably for hours.
That's what they do, bro. Like, yep, again, these are ideas that can't, these are ideas that cannot survive in the free marketplace of ideas. I'm going to push people away. Definitely it is. Exactly. The difference between that and movies where developers choose to create a character that's fat and has nothing to do with the character. I think that also, so here's another big difference between a movie and a video game. In a movie, you watch a movie. In a video game, you are the character. So if you make somebody a character that they don't want to be, why would somebody want to play a role-playing game when they're playing a role of a person they don't want to be? Totally different than a movie. 100% different.
Anything that's criticizing them and then went through the process of hiding the comment. It's actually pretty ridiculous. But anyways, here's another one from Tectone, which this is probably his least rage-baity tweet of all time, but it got people very upset, where he says, what the video game industry thinks we want versus what we actually want. Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair comparison point, because we can literally
I think that's actually true. Yeah, it is actually true. Like, I think women want this too.
Look at how certain games with certain designs are received, especially over the past couple of years, and say, yeah, I think overall there is a bigger market for character designs like Eve versus character designs like this. However, this would get a very hostile set of responses, including this quote, where 74,000 likes, and you can see Savvy saying, don't speak on behalf of women. But what are they saying in the quote here? It says, it's clear a lot of you are new here. Let me walk you through something. Women have been fighting decades to get games to stop portraying them like Stellar Blade. Now, besides the peak...
Well, if they're fighting for that, that's fine. And they can make a game however they want. But I don't think this is a mainstream success. Like, it's just not. And I think also, like, there are a lot of women that don't like those portrayals of characters in video games. But here's the reality. If you tell a girl she looks like Lara Croft, I mean, unless you're doing it in a creepy way, which one would a girl take a compliment more as? Like, if you're complimenting a girl, would you rather, would she rather be told that she looks like this person or that person? It's obvious. Yeah, why can't we have both? Well, they do. I mean, we do have both, right? But that's the point. And so it's just obvious. And so the issue is that there's a lot of dishonesty with this. And also, if you want to make a game and not appeal to that audience, you shouldn't expect that audience to play the games. Like, that's totally fine if you want to make a game and not try to, like, follow these norms, but you just can't expect to have the same sales numbers. And I think that's really what the issue is. And this is the reason why we're seeing a lot of these, like gaming layoffs too, I think. It's because they're making games for audiences that don't exist. And if you make a game for an audience that doesn't exist, well, then you're going to also get money that doesn't exist either. And that's the problem.
Male feminist energy here. This is, again, another...
That's not why layoffs are happening. It absolutely is one of the factors. Making video games that don't appeal to a large audience of people is absolutely a factor why video games don't sell well. It absolutely is. Now, it's not the main reason. I don't think it is. But if you do something that has a minority audience appeal, you're going to get a minority of sales.
Person speaking on behalf of women and then just denigrating them, making things worse, because the message here is crazy. They're claiming that women have been fighting decades to do what? To make video game characters less attractive? What a strange goal.
Well, it is true that there are women that say that. It's very accurate. But women don't actually do that. And if you look at the way that women customize their characters in video games, many of them make attractive characters. I would say the majority do. So it's something that's actually not true. It's just what sounds good. They make them hot. Yeah, exactly. It's just
top
bullshit.
of that, nobody is telling
bullshit.
you can't play characters like this. Go ahead.
Yeah.
But we're not going to live in a different reality where we're going to pretend this is just flat out more desirable for gamers than this. And on top of that, saying we need to get rid of designs like Stellar Blade, that's the worst example to ever exist for that point, because Eve is based on a real life woman. So you are saying designs based on real life women have no place in the gaming sphere? You're literally cracking down on female representation.
Well, this is what they do. It's a form of signaling so they can... the only reason why guys make comments like this is so they can signal to women that they're subservient and obedient to them. No real person thinks this authentically. And he knows it's retarded. Yeah, it's basically white knighting. Yeah, I'm one of the good boys. Please date me, please. Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. It's embarrassing.
Video games with your post seething about whatever message Tectone here was sharing. But anyways, you would see...
Here we go. Here we go. Uh-oh. Look who it is.
Asmongold make this very controversial tweet that would get a lot of negative responses.
It did.
Strap yourselves into your chairs. You might fall out after hearing this hot take. He says, maybe it's just me, but I feel like the market for masculine, non-conventionally attractive female leads in games isn't as big as the video game industry thinks it is. Yeah, that is pretty much the most agreeable statement ever, but this is Twitter, and this is Asmongold, so people would...
People do not like that. They don't like that. They don't want to hear that, bro. Like, that's it. Yep. This is politically correct as... Yeah, I didn't say we need to get these ugly bitches out of games before they cause the entire industry to collapse. I could have said that, and it would have been the same thing, but I tried to be politically correct.
Acts like what he just said is the most insane thing they've ever heard.
Yeah.
What he's saying is that if there was a market for these types of designs with masculine female leads, there would be a lot more successful versions of that sort of theme.
Yeah,
there just isn't. And I think it is very clear based on the past couple of years, especially 2024, that the video game industry greatly overestimates how much people like designs like that.
Exactly.
That is not a controversial thing to say, but
it's obvious. It's obvious, and anybody who can't see that is delusional. They're intentionally blind.
People on Twitter went absolutely crazy on this very simple point, including some quotes like this where this user said, maybe it's just me, but I don't judge a video game based on how easy I can fap to its protagonist.
Well, then why would they... Well, then you're not part of the conversation. So, like, if you don't care the way the character looks, then why would you even be talking about it in the first place? Like, it doesn't even... There's, like, no logic to it. Because, like, if you don't care the way the character looks, then the character's appearance wouldn't matter to you. So you're not advocating for, for the character itself. You're just saying that you don't care about this problem. You see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, because I got this response from people, and there's like, do people not know how to think anymore? Because, like, if you have the group of people that are going to play the game, and a large segment of them are not interested in the way the character looks, they just care about gameplay, then they wouldn't be included in the conversation about what the character looks like, because by definition, they don't care. So it's just... What?
And then, of course, they get criticism. They say, I posted this and immediately muted because I knew...
Also, by the way, somebody brought up a really good point in chat. W, by the way. Yeah, people don't care about the way the characters look in video games. It's a total bullshit thing, and only some people, a very, very small subset of people, cares the way that video game characters look. Yeah, it's just a small, small subset, And it's very, very uncommon. Okay, guys? See? Look. How about that? Oh, wow. Look at that. Very small subset. For sure.
It would attract brain-dead incels like unwashed moths to a flame.
Also, another one is that if people didn't care about how their character looked in video games, then why do cosmetics sell billions of dollars? Again, it's just totally illogical. There's no thinking that's involved in this at all. It's just a throwaway statement that's made to signal to other people that you have the right opinion.
Well, anyways, basically what they're saying here is pretty unhinged if you really think about it. So Asmongold makes a completely benign statement about saying there's clearly a market for certain designs, but it's not as big as the video game industry thinks it is. And this person turns around and starts talking about like what characters he might jay off to or something like that. It's like completely missing the point and raising a very odd thing. Like, people just want more attractive character designs. That's a preference. People are allowed to have it, and it's really not that complicated.
And it's also not a bad thing if you want to have characters that you can jack off to. There's nothing bad about that at all. It's a video game, and it's a cartoon. It's an entertainment product. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't care about that personally, really. Like, I'm actually one of, I don't care what the way a character looks either that much. It's not that big of a deal. Like, I care about gameplay too, but I mean, if you want to ask my opinion, that's what my opinion is. That's not the point. Yeah,
and
it's not
honestly,
even the
if you're just, constantly consuming these bad designs and just asking for more because you want to own the chuds on Twitter, well,
and this is the problem: is they do this for Twitter likes, but they don't buy the game. That's the problem. That's what these studios haven't realized, is that all these people that are signaling on Twitter, they're not buying the game.
Who's making some pretty insane decisions. But also people go after Asmongold because he would make a video kind of clarifying what he said in that tweet, titled, in quotes, "Ugly Female Leads in Video Games," where this user would say, ironic, and then post a picture of him, implying that he's ugly, which he even jokes about this sort of thing in his video.
I don't care what I look like. It doesn't matter. It's not relevant at all. Yeah, whether somebody thinks that I'm attractive or not is totally irrelevant to me. Like, Cerberus, I think, is a guy. So why would I care what a guy thinks about the way that I look? I'm not even considering this. And also, non-conventionally attractive and ugly are two different things.
Which predicted this would happen. Yeah. Unfortunately, this user and the 63,000 people who also liked this tweet didn't watch a single minute of his video, as pointed out in the community note, saying OP did not watch the video and his post is misleading. In the video, he spends a good deal of time defending the Witcher 4 trailer and the main character some people were saying has been uglified. He said, no, I think it actually looks pretty fine. However, he then turns that into a conversation about these ugly female leads in video games, where he says basically for a studio it makes no sense to not make attractive characters because it's basically a win.
And if I saw myself as the main character in a video game, I would say the guy needs more hair. Nobody wants that. We have mirrors. We don't need to see that when we look at a monitor. We've got a mirror for that. Yeah. I wish it was that easy for me. We got to go to Turkey, right?
For everybody. So on the one hand, if you make an attractive character, people who supposedly just don't care about what a character looks like, they just care about the gameplay, they're going to be indifferent. So why not make it attractive?
Exactly.
Then there is a very real, even though Twitter won't believe it, there's a very real section of gamers who do care about the design of characters and if they're attractive.
There are a lot of them that care. Tomb Raider is only popular because Lara Croft is hot. That's the only reason. If it was a guy, nobody would give a fuck. That's it. So, I like, it's delusional.
Appealing or not. And they might not buy a game if it doesn't look good. So
Uncharted's a different game. It doesn't play the exact same as Tomb Raider. I'm saying the game wouldn't have popped off.
Why wouldn't you make an attractive design to make that group of people happy, and then the other group will just be indifferent either way?
Yeah.
Or you can make an ugly character, and that one group will still be indifferent, and then the other group will be angry.
Yep.
So then you're just kind of having indifference and an L versus just indifference and a W. It makes no sense from a business standpoint because, after all, these are businesses, right? They should be trying to make some money and reaching a wider audience with their choices. And
I think this is also one of the... I talk about this a lot. It's like selfish altruism and selfish moral posturing. I think that what's going to end up happening with this game is that the game will end up alienating a lot of people, and it will cause the studio to make less money. And then when the studio makes less money, people that are at the studio are going to lose their jobs. So you're doing something in order to signal to people that you're forward thinking and that you're a, like you have the right opinions, and you're sacrificing people's jobs for it and their livelihood. Now, it's a second order effect. It's not immediate. So people might not really see the connection there, but I think that's what happens. I think that these studios try to make these statements, and then people don't like the statement, and then people, honest people, good people, lose their jobs because at the end of the day, it was more important for the people in leadership positions to make this statement and assert themselves as being the morally good people than for you to keep your job. And I find that to be one of the most selfish and awful things possible about this.
To their target audience. That's the whole conversation going on with Intergalactic. And of course, I saw people quoting the same user saying this was the same person who said Dragon Age Veilguard was going to do really well because the anti-woke people didn't like it. So
oh, wow. Man.
That aged
great track
horribly.
record there, huh?
Well, let's just move on to this post. I mean, you can see the message here. Very simple one. Where is the modern audience? They're doing the same thing with Intergalactic. It's going to happen over and over again. We can't even say like, oh, I'm not sure this game's going to do poorly, but maybe I had the sense in me that it might do bad based on some reaction. We have actual pattern recognition at this point where we can say if a game has a huge dislike ratio on the trailer and a lot of people are claiming it's woke, it's probably not going to do well. We have countless examples, and the people propping up this game, Intergalactic and its main protagonist, and virtue signaling on Twitter, that's all they're interested in. Virtue signaling. No matter how many viral posts they have, it doesn't show any interest in the game, and it's proven itself time and time with all these other previous...
pattern recognition too? Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, that's the thing. If people, I mean, you at a certain point, you're just going to see the pattern, and like, you can't pretend like it's not there. Alan 2 was woke. I don't know. I didn't really play it, so I'm not sure. I heard that like a part of like one of the like the secondary character who was like a black female said some line, but it was contextualized in a way that like I think people didn't make sense out of, or like it was basically it was misrepresented to make it seem worse. But I don't know if Alan Wake was woke or not. I have no idea, right? I mean, I didn't play it.
Pieces. The people on Twitter supporting that stuff,
but that's why it's on the list.
They're not actually interested. They are the vocal minority. They just care about virtue signaling. They don't care about the game. And even games like Intergalactic on its face, it's just not the type of game they probably want to play in the first place. The only thing they care about is virtue signaling about the choice of main protagonist. Now, I saw one good set of posts here from the Baldur's Gate 3 publisher who was talking about the Division right now. And that a lot of studios are basically just burying their heads in the sand. And like, yeah, you might not like the fact that there's a lot of division, a lot of hostility.
Yeah, this guy's completely fucking right. He absolutely, like, yeah, this is it. People don't want to hear what he has to say, but he's right.
Echo chambers and culture wars going on. But you can't be just completely ignorant of it. If you're making a game, you have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to navigate the waters. Okay, you can't stoke the flames or try to make things worse or virtue signal or anything like that. You have to anticipate how people are going to react. And that's an issue because a lot of these studios, clearly with Naughty Dog, they don't have a pulse on the gaming community. They don't know anything going on, because if they knew the kind of reaction a character like the main protagonist of Intergalactic would get...
They did know the reaction. That's why they released the trailer with the comments turned off. They knew. Like, but I don't think that they knew when they made the game.
Wouldn't have made it that way, but they must have, in their ignorance, thought, this will be good. People will love this. And, turns out they were wrong. But anyways, that is a long-winded conversation about...
Yeah, listen what he says. It's going to be an extremely tough time to ship a game with Division spilling into everything. I have one practical piece of advice that may seem controversial to some people, but it's crucial. Anticipate, don't ignore, ridicule, or stoke. Figure it out. Navigate the waters, even if you think they're unfair, or that the sea shouldn't be so rough. The reality is that it is. Exactly. And I think this is the problem that people like this have, is that they think the way that things should be, and they care more about how things should be than how they are. And so they act according to how they should be rather than how they are. And that causes them to fail over and over.
Quote unquote, ugly female leads in video games, which has sparked a lot of controversy. I mean, a lot of hostility on social media, Twitter in particular. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.
Yep. And I think what's going to keep happening is that these games will come out, and there will be people that play them, sure. But at the end of the day, the big problem, and I find it funny, the amount of responses that my tweet got. And there's the video, give it a like. I mean, I always appreciate... You know, there's a lot of people that, like, they see it the way I see it, and they can see how this is happening and how ridiculous it is. People don't want to hear the reality. No, they don't. They're afraid of the reality. And I think that's what really bothers them the most. And I think that what's going to happen more is that as this becomes more certain, you're just going to see this happen, like, constantly. You're going to see it constantly keep happening until these studios go out of business. That's it. And they will go out of business. I told you they're going to push it to identity politics no matter what the cost is. Well, they're going to push it until they stop. I mean, actually, well, this is a good example. I'll link you guys the video one more time because Pixar, I saw this today. So we have Disney now has decided to pull a transgender storyline from their upcoming Pixar streaming series, Win or Lose. Disney's official statement. So this literally just happened like today, basically. When it comes to animated content for a younger audience, we recognize that many parents would prefer to discuss certain subjects with their children on their own terms and timeline, which I think is pretty fair. I think that there's a lot of people that feel like they don't necessarily have a problem with this stuff personally, but when it goes into the realm of involving people that are underage, children specifically, right? Not just like somebody who's 17, but somebody who's 7, it becomes extremely problematic. And I think that people become much more defensive. When it comes to animated content, this is the complete opposite Disney business model over the past decade. What changed? Yeah, Disney is changing. The reason why they're changing is because they're losing money. Disney never cared about transgender people. They cared about money. So if they thought that you would give them money whenever they said transgender, they would say transgender. If they thought that, well, I could say another word, but, you know, they'd say that word too. And in fact, in some cases, they used to. If you go watch the old Looney Tunes. So yeah, anyway, at what point are trans people allowed? So this is it again. Will no longer include a transgender storyline. THR is learned. There we go. They pull it off. Yep, there it is. Let's see here. At what point are trans people allowed to exist in a narrative? At what point are LGBT people allowed to tell our stories without worry of censorship or removal? Well, apparently not. The thing is that, and this is what a lot of people need to understand, is that, like, I've actually always been, like, a pretty, like, liberal guy with this kind of stuff. But I do think that what happened is the, you know, trans, like, women competing in sports and, like, women's sports, and the inclusion of it in things that are targeting children, I think that was a bridge too far for a lot of people. And I could easily see that in the next 5 years, we could see them chipping away at the protections of even same-sex marriage. Because people were so fed up and so mad about this, I could easily see that happening. Yeah, pendulum swings back. Yeah, and they're going to do it really, really hard.